Hello, everyone, and that was Kevorkian Death Cycle, at one time known simply as Grid. Kind of an interesting story about them. I don't know them anymore. I mean, it's been years since I've spoken to them, but I used to know those guys, and I can take a little bit of pride in saying that I had a hand in getting them noticed. Um, I had reviewed their demo tape. I think it was called Collection for Injection, which then they re-released as a full album, and it was just all of their singles and stuff for the best of. But their first demo tape, I reviewed it for Industrial Nation and just gave it this amazing review. And apparently, within I think it was like 2 to 3 hours after the magazine hit the shelves, they were getting calls from record labels, and they got onto Fifth Column Records, and it was because I had written this article about them. So in a way, they were very, very nice to me after that. I mean, before that they were cool to me, but after that they were like, okay, we appreciate what you did. Um, but anyway, yeah, I knew them. It was very interesting the way I even ran into them. I mean, there was this period of time in the early '90s in which industrial was just really, really got taking off and had this very vibrant subculture. It was all underground, of course, but very, very vibrant. And there were just bands popping up everywhere. And there was a small area in San Bernardino. I forget which. I think actually it was Broadway was the street, but anyway, there was a strip of stores. It had the coffee house. It had the head shop. Well, actually, it was more of a goth. It was a goth clothing, music, and style shop, and BDSM. And then after that, oh, there were a few other shops on that one street across from the mall. And anyways, I was at the head shop, just kind of checking it out, picking up some. I was actually there to pick up an issue of Industrial Nation, and that was before I was even writing for them. And I go behind I look at the counter, and I'm like, I see the tape. I see the tape as Grid was what they were called back then, and I had said, hey, I saw these guys play at the coffee house up the street last week. They were fucking incredible. I mean, they are really good. So do you know them? And then the guys start laughing. We're them. Of course, I didn't recognize them. One of them had a gimp mask on during the show. I was like, oh, I'm not going to recognize you. And so we talked for a bit, and I picked up their tape, and that was that. And I reviewed it. And yeah, the next thing you know, they're signed and they're touring. So that's kind of one of my weird brushes with fame, I suppose, or with the subculture. And no, they are very, very good. I would have to agree with Undead Quinn. The latest work they've done, I think, is among their best by far. And if you're into that kind of music, I would recommend just going on to Bandcamp and picking up their album. It's called I Am God, I believe. There's two of them. There's God I Am and I Am God. Don't ask. Um, for any of you out there who might be a little put off by some of their statements about Christianity, here's the deal. Ryan Gribben, who is the singer of the band, is not talking about your regular Christianity when he's singing those songs. Ryan was brought up in a family or a weird church that was like a cult. And he's written quite a few songs about growing up in this very cult environment of being isolated and brainwashed. And I mean, it was one of those scary things where, no TV, no music, no dancing. It was what he's told me about that past was quite terrifying. So when he's singing about Christian extremism, that's specifically what he's talking about. Is his life while he was in that weird cult, or his parents tried to bring him up in that weird cult. Um, although there's other songs where it's just them singing about BDSM. anyway, good guys, very talented musicians. Uh, um, Roger, the musical mind behind Kevorkian Death Cycle, has another band called Hex RX, which is very good as well, but a lot harder. So that's more on the, I guess, noise industrial side. It's really heavy. I've played a Hex RX song on here before. Anyway, oh, and Aloise, to answer your question, yeah, I did hear about Bandcamp and their thing with Tim Pool. Uh, I know Tim keeps saying it's political, but I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Bandcamp removing his music had to do with politics. And the reason being is the number of bands on there that are blatantly and openly anti-woke, like Jim Davies and ELM, and there are a few other bands that I buy off of Bandcamp that are blatantly anti-woke. I mean, they're not even hiding it. Put point blank, the reason I think they pulled Tim Pool, and I'm not saying it's right, actually, in some ways, I think it's a little worse. Um, if Tim Pool's album really was charting as good as he claims, what's happening is it's just like Tom McDonald, where record labels will come in and say, this band, like, look, I'll use Tom McDonald as the example. Tom McDonald is scoring on the top 10. It bumped so and so, it bumped our latest release off the top of the charts. We can't stand for that. Now, either you pull Tom McDonald off your service, or you're not going to have any of our big bands on your service ever again. And they've done that to a few people who've charted and kicked major label artists off of the top 10 chart. And if Tim's really scoring as well as he claims he is, that's precisely why he got pulled. It had nothing to do with politics. It had everything to do with corporate or big Hollywood, big music, entertainment threatening the little guy, saying that we'll put you out of business. Hold on a second. No, it's fucked. It's very, very fucked. It's an old game that's been played by the record labels for years. It's just like when any independent band would suddenly hit it big on a local station and start getting national airplay. If that band did not willingly sign to a major label, the next thing you know, all the radio stations would be like, "I'm sorry, we can't play you anymore," or "We won't get the big labels sending us records." It's the same fucking thing. It's an old game, which basically comes down to Hollywood and the music biz and the entertainment industry are a bunch of fucking assholes. Ironcast says, solidly appreciate all the good music suggested, Ishii. I've been a lifelong industrial lover, but overall ignorant of its hidden gems. Oh, well, I'm glad I've been able to expose you to some of these hidden gems. I mean, I guess since I spent so much time immersed in it, and I mean, part of my job when I was with 21st Circuitry Records was finding bands. And before that, when I was writing for Industrial Nation, I was always looking out for, okay, well, what's the next cool thing? Who's going to be the next big band? And so, in a sense, I had been immersed in it, and I'm aware of a lot of underrated bands from the 90s and early 2000s that I think were overlooked. But yeah, glad you dig it, man. And Undead Quinn, I believe, said that he was familiar with Kevorkian Death Cycle. Interestingly enough, how they got their name, I don't even think that was the best name. It was a bit of a mouthful, KDC, Kevorkian Death Cycle. But they were called Grid, and it was all caps except the I was lowercase. And then apparently there was another band in San Bernardino, Redlands area that was also called Grid, and they were threatening to sue, and they were getting threatening phone calls. And then they also found out that some artist had a project called The Grid, so they had, fuck it, we'll call us Kevorkian Death Cycle, because at the time they'd written a number of songs about Jack Kevorkian. In fact, I think their first song, Send Me the Machine, was basically about getting plugged into Kevorkian's machine. Um, Someone told me there was another band that got pulled from Bandcamp. I think deserves more attention than Tim. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. And again, it's the bands that are threatening the major labels and charting. The top 10 Billboard charts and some of the other charts that have to do with selling units and airplay, the major labels are like really, really fucking protective of that and will start using mafioso tactics to make sure they stay on the top 10 and no one else does. Okay. You ship 200 units, you chart at top 40 at this point. That is true, JC. Everything's so fragmented. Getting on the top 40 isn't really an achievement anymore. Which is you know what? That's another thing. Pay for your music. I know. It's very tempting to just go steal it off of YouTube. Don't. Do not do that. That is one of the reasons so much music sucks now. Is it's hard. It's very easy for the little guy to get noticed. It's very hard for the little guy to make any money at it because of theft. Ishii's fan base should be named rats. Well, there is a rat in the loft right above me right now, hanging out with me today. Vegeta and Chaozu were not getting along, so I've been keeping them separate. It's lady rat season. They can smell the rats outside, and they're horny. I hear. So yeah, you got to separate the rats from the horny, or they start fighting sometimes. So I hear furry community hated trans shooter too. Oh, well, good. I don't know that whole trans thing. So do you think we're really going to see a trans day of vengeance tomorrow on my birthday? Or tomorrow is April 1st, right? Yeah, my birthday. So yeah, will I have a big birthday surprise of trannies going wild, or do you think it's all talk, just out of curiosity? Because I'm honestly curious what you think. Turbo Calvinists. Yeah. And Tueldi says, hey, so you got scars finally. Excellent. Well, I'm anxious to hear what you think of it, dude. So give me a oh, Undead Quinn's familiar. Well, okay, so you're familiar with Kevorkian Death Cycle strictly because of the Never Say Never cover. That's my fault too, actually. Do you own that CD, or do you just have that song out of curiosity? Um, that was from the Newer Wave compilation put out by 21st Circuitry Records. And at the time, we were contacting various bands for covers, and I contacted Kevorkian Death Cycle and said, hey, do you want to be on this? And they wanted to do the Never Say Never cover. They thought about doing Teenage Edimators, but then they decided on Never Say Never instead. Okay. Trans pussies, a lot of them. Knew it. They chickened out. It was canceled because they got afraid people would take to the streets and beat them up. Well, yeah, I kind of thought they would. Yeah, I think that's exactly what would have happened. Also, that whole Trans Day of Vengeance was a 4chan troll. Well, it started as one, but a lot of people took it seriously, including the press secretary here in Arizona, who was promoting it and lost her job over it, the dumbass. Let's see. Entertainment business. Yeah, the entertainment industry is corrupt as shit and needs to burn down. All of Hollywood is pretty much they're ran like the mob because they are the mob, to be honest with you. Just the mob tactics used by both the music industry and Hollywood are just so blatant and disgusting. They're not worth working with. And the thing is, it's not even the Italian mob, because the Italian mob at least has the notion of, well, I can be successful and the other guy can be successful, and that's all right. Hollywood doesn't have that mentality. Only they can be successful, and everyone else has to be put out of business. Um, the quartering was nothing on TISM. A conservative commentary was going against trans narrative. Okay, I think we're going to start seeing pushback as well. Please let the trans terrorist attack in Florida. Normal trans will gun them down. Same thing here in Arizona. I think people will gun them down if they try it. In fact, I know that a lot of citizens have been making their own arrests because in Phoenix there aren't enough cops because the mayor is a liberal and really has just fucked the city up. I don't live there though. I live somewhere that isn't like that. But don't go to Phoenix. Phoenix has been taken over by Californians. Do you know if the entertainment industry was corrupted by greed or by commies, or is it one half and several dozen other? Well, it's kind of a mix. Um, Unfortunately, the same can be said about the publishing and especially the comics industry. In each case, okay, Hollywood, the music industry, and the comic industry thrived on being fronts for the Jewish mafia. I'm just going to be honest. I don't care if it gets me in trouble. I'm being honest. The Jewish mafia pretty much used the entertainment business as a front for laundering money. And the money is our movies are a great way to make money disappear. In fact, there was a movie about it called The Producers, which was precisely that, where two guys, two producers, were going to do precisely that. And what did they do? They tried to make a film that would not make any money, which was about Hitler, so that they could swindle old ladies out of money. I mean, The Producers, although a comedy, is extremely accurate on how they operate. The twist being, in this case, it explodes in their face. So from day one, Hollywood and the music industry were crooked. That's just a given. Then the commies rolled in, and I could get into why, but that's a story in itself, and it involves a lot of shit I just don't feel like talking about, which just made it worse. And then they started blacklisting conservatives. Then it was all about we've got to push the message. I mean, the idea of pushing the message goes all the way back to the 60s, okay? This has been going on for quite some time. And it's just gotten to the point now where they're not even hiding it. It's just utterly blatant. And so, in a sense, what they were doing is, like in the music industry, the way the music industry was set up, that unless you became a superstar, you ended up having to pay the record label. You ended up being in debt to them. It was like loan sharking. They would give you the money to record your album and go on tour, and then they wanted the money back with interest. And if you didn't earn it, you still had to pay them. Yeah, it's really fucked. And it's always been this kind of model of screwing people. It's just inherent in how the system runs. And the culture, I think at one point, the difference being is there was once a time where no matter what, you could say that there were people in the music industry who loved music. You could honestly say that in the old days, the Hollywood producers, as crooked as they were, still loved movies. And so you would get projects where, it wasn't done for money. It was done out of love. You would get things like Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, which, if you've ever seen the Charlton Heston version of one, it's a fucking amazing performance. But Yeah, it just after a while, it became less and less about anything other than money and screwing the other guy, and that was it. And these producers that were running that run Hollywood would get off on screwing each other for that matter. That was part of it, is they really liked screwing the other guy as well. It wasn't just enough to succeed, but to fuck over the other guy. And that's often why you'll see, like, if somebody's got a movie coming out and it looks like it's going to be a hit, you'll see another studio rush out a cheap copy or multiple cheap copycats, flood the market, and then make it so no one cares about it when the actual movie comes out. It's just dirty tricks, and there's no reason to do it other than they're assholes. And yeah, it's it's just like the Vegas casinos. They were all fronts for mafia money, but that was the Italian mob. Um, there is some Italian mob in the music industry, but by and large, publishing and Hollywood, being both music and well, actually, there's a music industry in New York too, has primarily been the Jewish mafia, and they operate. They each have their own ways of operating. Um, like I said, the rule with the Italian mob, by and large, is it was okay to succeed in their turf. You just had to pay tribute. And I'm not saying that's right either, but at least you could still play the game. You could still run a business. You just had to pay tribute to the Don or the guy who ran the territory. And I don't know. I wonder if Hollywood would have been different if it was ran that way, where, okay, your indie film made an assload of money. We're not going to chase you out of town, but you got to pay tribute to the Don. Um, would it suck? Yeah, but it probably would mean we'd have more creativity. Let's see what you guys have to say. Um, going through here. Seeing what you have to say. With the Jazz Jennings controversy, I think people are noticing this trans stuff is nothing but a misery machine. And gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. These were again parents with showbiz ties, and they basically decided, okay, this kid's going to be our meal ticket. We're going to basically decide this kid's got a mental illness or is there something special and damaged about our little Jazz, and we're going to cash in on it, and it's going to be this little thing's going to be our money machine, and that's exactly what Jazz Jennings is. And every time there was a controversy, oh well, they cashed in on it. I mean, they sent Jazz to it was some elite Jewish religious school, and apparently there was a big controversy because the school didn't want to let a transvestite in. Family cashed in on it, and that was again. Well, they went to Oprah about it. Let's make money. And it's showbiz parents. It's just like what the John Benet Ramsey family was like. Basically, their kid was the cash cow, and who gets sacrificed? The child does. To talk music, craftwork, computer world is head of days. Yeah. Hollywood deliberately operates at a loss for personal profit. Also, Springtime Hitler is surpassingly catchy song. Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, they would operate pretending they were operating at a loss. I mean, don't you remember that they had claimed Lord of the Rings hadn't made a cent and therefore they weren't going to pay Peter Jackson? Do you remember that? Like, are you shitting me? And he had to sue them because they kept claiming, oh, yeah, Lord of the Rings made no money. Going through here. Done out of love or ego. Well, either way. But no, there used to be a point in time in which Hollywood producers, even if they were mafioso types and primarily using it as a front for money, there was a time in which the producers did love cinema. I mean, they did projects because they loved cinema. They would get behind projects not because they thought it would make an ass load of money, but because it was good. And that's gone. That is completely gone. It's nothing but accountants and paper pushers now. So it's that's why Rush formed their own label. Yeah, they had record label contracts, but had more control. Yeah, smart thing to do. Of course, aren't they 1/4 of the national income of Canada now? You know, you want to know how superhero fatigue comes to be? Because bad movies and cheap movies in a genre that make people tired of seeing them. Exactly. It there is no reason that they couldn't keep making more and more superhero movies, except the movies suck. In fact, almost all movies fucking suck. It doesn't have to do with fatigue of any sort other than Hollywood fatigue, woke fatigue. And I'm not shocked in the least. I'm just shocked it took this long for it to finally come to fruition. You just, the way that they were circling the bowl, just, I thought that they would cut their losses sooner, but I didn't realize that BlackRock Financial was actually subsidizing the loss. That it got to the point where BlackRock was paying the loss that Hollywood and especially Disney was getting to make sure that they could remain on message and promote the propaganda. But then BlackRock lost too much money and they had to stop bailing Disney out. And now look what's happening. People are fucking evil. Okay. Going through your comments. Over under on the timelines of the JJ? I'm sorry. Rush sucks. Didn't Michael J. Straczynski say something similar about Babylon 5? It technically didn't turn a profit because it was leveraged against failure and damages elsewhere because of Hollywood accounting. Yeah, and that happens a lot. I mean, when I was signing my deal with, oh God, I forget her name, for just not even it wasn't even a license. It was the optioning of Titanium Rain. They tried to screw me every which way they could to make sure I didn't get anything. It's like, come on. You're producers who are billionaires. You've got billions of dollars and you're trying to screw me out of 10,000 for the option. And they kept wanting me to give it to them free and they kept wanting me to do things for free. And I told you the story is that I came at it from the perspective of I don't care. I don't fucking care. Just give me my money. I don't care what you do with it. It's not my movie. It's your movie. I don't care what you do with it. And that really, they didn't really know what to do with me on that. And then at some point, there were two things I said. The only things I give a damn about is I don't want this sold to kids. This would be like marketing Apocalypse Now to kids. This is not a kid's product. Immediately, what do? They start pushing, oh, we want to make it a cartoon. We want to make it for kids. And then I'm like, whatever, just pay me. And then there was another time that they decided they were going to change the plot and make it that it was North Korea versus the United States fighting over water rights in the Himalaya. And I said that was stupid. And have you ever looked at a map? And that made them happy that I disapproved of it. And that's when I understood, no, they want to rip me off and they want me unhappy. And once I realized that was their game, that they wanted to screw me out of every cent they could, I mean, they even tried to steal the rights of the property. They wanted it where I couldn't put my name on it. They wanted it that I could no longer publish the book. I mean, it was amazing. They wanted the book to. They said that from then on they wanted all novelizations and further issues of Titanium Rain to be written by one of a screenwriter of their choice. And it's like, no, fuck you, go fuck yourself. And they would always make sort of promises about money and getting into the industry. And well, my thought is, why would I want to be in this industry if it's full of people like you? And two, you know what? I don't believe you're going to pay me any money. I mean, I had to threaten you with lawyers to get $10,000, and half of that went to the lawyer. It's like, fuck you guys. So yeah, that's Hollywood. That is what's wrong with Hollywood. And I don't know, it was weird was I had even once mentioned the name of the producer, who again, I can't recall her name right now, to somebody, and they were like, oh, her, oh. And they started like basically alluding that she had mob ties, and I was like, I'm not shocked. Um, One of the rumors is Bob Chapek. Yeah, I had heard about that. Um, the band Narrow Views got removed from Bandcamp post in 2016. Here's their No Apologies album. Okay. Yeah, that and they are full of pedos, and I really don't know why. That's another one that's just really disturbing is the whole pedo thing in Hollywood. Do you guys really want me to talk about this shit? I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about just how much Hollywood sucks and um, just the mafia tactics they use. I mean, I think we can all come to the agreement they're fucked. They're always going to be fucked, and that the only thing that can really help us is a fire. Is that they just go down crashing in flames and we never see them again. Because I don't know, what more can I bring to this conversation? I don't really. What's left? What's left to say? We know these people are sick pedophiles. We know these people are crooks. We know these people get off on ruining people's lives and stealing properties. And you go down the list. They're terrible people. What's left? What's left to say? And the strange thing is that the comics industry was the same thing in a microcosm. It was kind of the same thing. A lot of what DC and Marvel did was steal from each other or steal from independent creators, and then they would release properties trying to screw the other guy over. I mean, they went through that whole war where they just started making up characters with various names so that the other company couldn't use the name. Um, was it Power Man was created because Power Girl was created? I mean, Stanley made Power Man just to spite them so that there could never be a Power Man in the DCU. And yeah, I mean, they were just trying to think of every name out of the fucking book, copywriting it so that DC and Marvel back and forth. It was like, why? Why? What does this have to do with creativity? What does this have to do with storytelling? Or for that matter, what does it even really have to do with running a successful business? Spending hours upon or days upon days upon days coming up with dumb characters and names and powers and then saying that you own them, therefore the other guy can't ever do a book, with the anticipation that the other guy is going to do a book with this sort of name or this character. I mean, really, what does that have to do with creativity? That's why I will hold by Stanley is a piece of shit. Just ask any of his ex-wives. So Stanley was as bad as Hollywood? Yeah, he was a shitbag, absolute shitbag. And the sad thing is he stole. The credit really all should be going to Jack Kirby. Kirby was the real creative force behind it. He was the one that created a lot of these characters. Or in Spider-Man's case, it was Steve Ditko, and Ditko basically got robbed by Stanley as well. but yeah, the one that really should be famous is Jack Kirby. And Jack Kirby was, from what I understand and what I heard, an all around good guy. He was a straight shooter. He was honest. He was nice. Whereas Stan Lee was the spoiled rich kid who was essentially running Marvel because his family was using it to was embezzle money and launder money through Marvel. That's what was keeping it afloat. Did Stan Lee have ex-wives? Several. I know he stole his wife from another man, and they say they stayed together till they died. I told you my Stan Lee story, right? Right? I'm gonna wait. You guys have heard my Stan Lee story. If someone says no, I'll tell it. Otherwise, I'll move on. But I had an encounter with Stan Lee. He was a piece of shit. He was absolutely pure Hollywood shit and a dirtbag. Okay, my Stan Lee story. Okay, this is when I knew that the comics industry was in trouble, and that this is kind of the moment that Kat and I said we've got to find an exit plan, and that was comics had hit kind of a renaissance during during the aughts. People seem to forget this now, and comics were becoming legit. They were really, really becoming a legit medium, not what they've become. And there was all this good stuff coming out and all this great indie stuff as well as mainstream. And then the moment people started noticing and money started coming in, Hollywood got interested. And year by year, Hollywood kept inserting itself more and more into the comics industry until Comic-Con stopped being about comics for a while. It was all about the fall lineup on NBC. It's like, and like comics were like pushed off into a corner somewhere. But this was when I was with Archaea, and we were supposed to go to an industry mixer. And in the past, industry mixers were a bunch of dorky guys, a bunch of comics people going to a bar or having some reserved space and just hanging out and talking shop, talking about comics, catching up, and it was great. And again, it slowly started becoming more Hollywood. And then this one year, I forget what studio Archaea got involved with. The industry mixer was at some high-end club on the roof, and we go. And we go there, and we instantly can tell something's not right. I mean, there are drunks everywhere. There are all these fat, smelly dudes in Hawaii. All fat guys. They all looked like Harvey Weinstein, believe it or not. They really did. All these dudes that look kind of like Weinstein in cargo shorts and Hawaiian t-shirts, smoking cigars, doing lines of cocaine off the tables. All of them had hookers and call girls with them. In the corner, there were naked girls off in the corner being body painted. There were various, minor celebrities there trying to rub elbows with producers, and you could not hear anything. It was so fucking loud. It was just this loud, obnoxious party full of obnoxious people playing shitty music, and and again, a bunch of really nasty fat guys doing cocaine and feeling up and taking the clothes off their call girls. And at one point, one of the it was Alex Ekman Lawn, one of the artists at Archaea, really nice guy, very, very reserved, very shy, introvert through and through, is walking around, and this producer grabs him and says, come on over here. So where are you? You're one of these comics people. What are you doing? And the guy's got a cigar out of his mouth. He's got a girl on his arm. He's got a big, I don't know, his mug of something. I don't know what he's drinking. Yes, I'm an artist. I love you, artists. You guys are the greatest. You know why I fucking love you guys? Because you make my shit look good. My shit, it's shit. It looks like shit. It smells like shit. It's shit. But you come in and you make it look great, and I get to keep all the money. I shit you not. And yeah, so you can imagine we really didn't want to be there, but we had to stay because it was a mixer and there was a certain amount of time that we were expected to be there. So we find a table off in the corner that's quiet. And it was Kat and I, it was Alex Ekman-Lawn and the writer he worked with, Chan, who did the book God, and she was a handful of us, right? And we're in this table off in the corner, just kind of, can you believe this shit? What the fuck's going on here, right? And then this huge black guy, looked like he could have been an ex-quarterback or something. I mean, this guy was fucking huge in a tux, walks up to me and says, "Excuse me, sir, this table is reserved." And I said, "No, it isn't." "Yes, it is." And I said, "See those tables over there? They've got reserved signs on it. This one doesn't. This table is not reserved." So he goes and he gets it and he slams down and reserves it. "It is now. Move your ass." And so, yeah, that is exactly what we did. We moved. Actually, we left shortly after. And who would show up? Guess who had us kicked out of our seat? Stan Lee comes on in, old fart that he is, with about 6 girls on his arm and 2 bodyguards and his I don't know, his whole entourage of people kissing his ass, people taking his picture and videoing him. And he walks up and he sits in my fucking chair. He took my fucking seat and our table. He had requested we be removed so he could fucking sit there. Oh, there were other tables that were already reserved that he could have had. No, the fucking asshole had me move. And you know what? He wasn't even nice about it. Fuck Stan Lee. He's a piece of shit. True story. How long were his arms? He's not very big. So Stan Lee wasn't a kindly old man who just wanted to entertain, as I thought. No, not in the least. He was a bullshit artist. He was a bullshit artist, a plagiarist, and a piece of shit, and a glory hound. And there is no shortage of Marvel creators that will say, "Yeah, I made this character," and Stan took credit for it and says he created it. But yeah, so that's my Stan Lee story. How skinny were the girls? Oh, they were actually all very slender, tall, and Aryan looking. He really was into the Aryan model look. And yeah, they were all basically high-end hoes. I mean, whatever. I just, you think about it, it's like, you're rich, you're successful, you've got all you want. Why act that way? Why be an asshole? Seriously, what's the point? And for that matter, why keep stealing from people? Why keep ruining other people's careers? Why? The only logical answer is that's what they're in it for. That's what they enjoy. It's not the creativity, it's fucking people over. And I will stand by that. I mean, it's just like my Neil Gaiman story. I have absolutely no respect for that piece of shit. I don't think he's in the business for the right reasons. I think it's all about him. So, he can fucking go to hell too, goddamn Scientologist. If it makes you feel any better, Stanley's family stole all his money in his final years. And he died alone, painful, surrounded by leeches who bled every last penny. Oh, good, good. So basically his kids took after dear old dad and gave him the same treatment. He deserves it. Why do you guys like me sounding so pissed off and angry? Why do you guys want to get me pissed off? I was in a good mood. I came on the air talking about Kevorkian death cycle and my good days in the music industry and my youth in the industrial music scene. And we get me talking about what? Trannies and the Hollywood mafia and Stan Lee being a pile of shit. Why do you guys like this? Oh, his daughter was a real piece of work too? That doesn't surprise me. No, seriously, I want an answer. Why do you guys want me pissed off? I mean, shit. Where's Iron Knight? Iron Cast Knight doesn't want me pissed off, right? Iron Cast Knight likes to talk to me about nice things. He doesn't want to hear all my shit show stories. We can always talk about Kevorkian death cycle again. I don't know if I have any more stories about them really, other than what I told earlier. But I don't know. It's just every time I come on, you guys want to get me started. Just because because you talk just as we think, J.Ishiro Finney. Well, okay, maybe. So you like it because I'm saying all the things that you guys are thinking. Is that it, or do I give it? I give it my own spin, hopefully. Who else can I talk about? I mean, I told you my encounter with Bam Margera and what a loser he was, but I don't think that's a shock to anyone. Seriously, is anyone shocked that Bam Margera is a kind of a turd? I think we all know that he was kind of a train wreck, right? Ironcast says, I mainly just want to know which of the stories of mine you read. If it's all right, DM me. I'm proud of them, despite being a rough draft. Okay, give me a second, all right? I'll be right back. I'll go find out. I'm gonna have to dig it out. So let's see. This is a short song.
I know how to save the youth of America.
We just want you to do what we believe. We just want you to do what we believe. We just want you to do what we believe.
Ah, yes, Babyland. I have no idea why they call themselves that. I actually saw them live once too, which was pretty damn cool. I mean, they had the metal grinder right there on stage, shooting sparks into the audience, and they had all the homemade instruments like trash cans with mic pickups in them. It was pretty cool. Anyway, so Ironcast Knight wants to know which story his I've read. Um, Either he did not include a title or it did not get included in the print. Um, Hopefully, if I read a little bit of it, you won't be embarrassed, Ironcast, and hopefully it'll make you remember what it is. The skyline arched from the ground all the way up to this. Oh, the skyline arched from the ground all the way up to spear the sky. Great opening line. The afternoon sun blazed in its ivory crown over the city spires, needles, and transport lattices, topping them with a creamy glare. Tiny specks of airborne through lanes thronged the high tier far above the near surface pedways. Tariel swiveled his eyes up and down as he glanced through the lensed windows, searching for a momentary escape from the escalating anxiety that racking his consciousness. By the way, I love that imagery. I think it needs to be polished and tightened a little, but I actually you that style of writing, um, I guess the maximalism. I actually am a big fan of it. It's so rarely done these days. I would shorten it down a little, polish it up some, but on the whole, I like it. Hello everyone. Am I even here still? I'm not getting a chat. Hello. Chat's not even showing up anymore. Yours? I could have swore that was one of yours, Ironcast Knight. Then who sent that to me? Huh. I was I was pretty certain that was yours, Ironcast. Geez, sorry if I'm confusing people then. Okay, Ironcast, I'm just gonna ask again. Were you the one who wrote the really epic uh, review for um, Robomancer about traveling across the country on a motor scooter with Richard Steele? The chat's back. Okay. Are you the one that wrote that long review? Because either that or I'm confusing you with somebody else. And I'm sorry, because yeah, that's yours. Yeah, I asked you to send me a story, and you sent me this and said it was a rough draft. And let's okay, let me check my email. I'm a little baffled if it's not yours. Yeah, it has kind of a Philip K. Dick quality to it. It's about this guy who's hearing voices in his head, and he's convinced that aliens are sending him messages, and it's like taunting him. It's not even really a warning so much as a they're mentally is psychological warfare. And then it starts to get into how it may actually be insects that are doing it. Um, let's see if I can check my. Okay, I'm gonna see if there's any in my spam or trash because this was sent to me quite a while ago. Is this one of candy corns? Oh God, I think it might be. Keep in mind, it's been a while since I've read it too, so um, yeah, it just has this long conversation between a guy, a commissioner, and this guy named. Sorry, I lost it. Was it Tariel? I'm probably mispronouncing that. Tariel, yeah, that's what it is. And he goes to see this guy named the Commissioner. Yeah, I was fairly certain because I remember it was after you wrote that incredibly hilarious review for Robomancer that you said I received an email, and I believe it was from you, and it was essentially, okay, here, this is a rough draft, and don't judge it too harshly, but since you requested seeing some of my stuff, and that's what I recall. So let's see if I can't find any emails from you. Okay, not getting anything there. I don't know. I have no idea. It, gee, it was even sent through a Google Docs to me, and I should have kept that, and I didn't. Uh, yeah, I have no idea. Well, damn. Okay. Okay, it is the candy corn story. I can see you losing your mind. Yeah, yeah, that was it. Well, I have it. I've never sent you an email, and if you asked me to, so I probably missed it. Then how did I get it? All right. Well, anyway, yeah, if you ever want to come on and talk about it on a writer's room, we can do that. Okay. It was something that was published in the Teen Titans about 3 years ago. So now Jackson Hyde Aqualad and getting the Iceman. Oh God, they're making him gay. Huh, I'm surprised. I was fairly certain afterwards. I even left you my email address in the chat saying, "Yeah, go ahead and send me something." Yeah, exactly, JC. It does remind me a bit of how Gibson wrote in Neuromancer, which was a huge influence on my own writing. Okay, going through here. Well, yeah, yeah. I think you should keep at it. Seriously. I know that time's always short, and we're all busy these days. But no, you've definitely got skills, man. I'm just DMing you one on the Discord. It's one long space fighter chase through. Oh, cool. That sounds good. I like that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, yeah. Oh, so anyway, during the song, I would have popped on a little bit sooner, but Kat told me that Amazon has finally agreed. Yes, Ridiculum can be in print, and that right now they're going through the process of quote unquote publishing it to hard copies so that you guys who want to get it in print can. By the way, today I did receive a proof copy of Ridiculum and was quite pleased as how good it came out. Actually, it came out really well. I mean, I've had mixed results with some of the Amazon print on demand, but this one really works, and JEC's art pops. Um, Yeah, finally, exactly. That's kind of why I've held off doing a huge push for Ridiculum. Is if we do a big media push now, we'll lose half the people who want to buy it because there's always that certain number of people who only want print, and I don't blame them. I try to get all my books in print if I can. You ever watch Unsolved Mysteries and get scared shitless by the theme? Fucking love that. You know what? As a child, yes, it kind of did. I loved it, but it did creep me out. That song did creep me out. And I will say, going back, Kat and I started watching it again 5 or 6 months ago. We watched a bunch of the episodes of Unsolved Mysteries. And when I was younger, I just kind of like, well, whatever. This is entertaining. Um, but going back now, after doing tons and tons and tons of UFO research, their UFO stories are pretty damn solid. It's not sightings level material. They did their homework. Okay. You did. It's more fun than asking through a live stream, but I will jot the questions down and email them. Mail it once it comes to. Okay, cool. Because it was real. But no, no, the episodes about UFO, the stuff where they talked about UFOs, they weren't bullshitting. The evidence they cite, what they did cite fairly solid stories. And it wasn't like sightings where they just get into that and start talking. All right, going through your comments, seeing what's. Yeah, it was weird with the chat guys. For a second there, the chat just vanished on me. I checked to make sure I was still on the air, but on my end here on StreamYard, it just gone, just vanished, and it would not return. I'm guessing it was a glitch in the app. That's my guess. By the way, I guess the show and the song stirred up my paranoia in a good way. Makes me want to grab a rifle and stand my ground. Need that energy for writing. Don't call the cops. You know, the UFO stories they did, usually it wasn't the UFO that was ominous, it was usually the cover-up that was. And one of the nice things about Unsolved Mysteries is when it came on the air, I believe it predated the X-Files, so it hadn't been contaminated by the later UFO craze of the '90s. It was at the beginning of it. Oh, the Kolchak Show, that is such a good show. That is such a good fucking show. It's a shame that was it Gavin that Gavin is dead because I would have loved him to do, like, radio dramas or something as the character again, um, especially since Pocket Universe is going to start doing, um, Kolchak Night Stalker audio, dramas, supposedly. I guess, on another subject, I have been, arduously in, my spare time trying to find stories, for the other anthologies of pulp since you guys liked Ridiculum so much. And the project, it looks like, let me share some progress for you. So far, I would say in the Dangerous Women anthology, I've got 3 stories. Shamblu by C.L. Moore, The Adaptive Ultimate by Stanley G. Weinbaum, and the original Amazon by John Russell Fern. And I found out that the original Golden Amazon, when she was more of a Venusian jungle goddess, is better written than the later stuff where she's the weird genetically engineered psychopath. The dystopian one, in which I'm trying to do nothing but dystopian stories where it has humanity winning out or it has a victory at the end, humanity wins. I've got uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 9 stories. Really, the page count is there, but I want more than 9 stories. I'd like at least 13 to 15 stories for you. And so far, I'm publishing Assassin by J.F. Bone, Anthem by Ayn Rand, uh, Home is the Hunter by Henry Kuttner. Oh my God, that story is amazing and way the fuck ahead of its time. Uh, Home is the Hunter is about this futuristic New York where everybody lives in luxury, robots take care of everything, but In this world, there are peasants and there are nobles. And those who have power amass power by cutting the heads off of other nobles and taking all of their things. And they keep the heads in jars on their trophy wall. And whoever has the most heads has the most political power in this New York. Um, the way that it's written, I would have swore it was written in the 80s, not the 1930s. It has a very, very 80s tone to it. Um, and you read it, it's like this totally inspired Highlander. Um, I'm including No Way Out by Robert Silverberg, who, as a writer, I'm really not a fan of, but the story's decent, and um, it does have humanity winning out in the end, but it makes it an unintentional commentary, which I find hilarious. No Way Out is a story about overpopulation. The Earth is overpopulated, and the other planetary colonies, they're trying to force the planetary colonies to start taking their population overrun. And the other planets are like, no, go fuck yourself. Now, what's funny is when Silverberg wrote it, he was intending it to be an anti overpopulation message. What he doesn't realize is that what he really wrote was a really strong argument for having a strict immigration policy and not letting tons of people into the country, which is not a message I think he would have gotten behind. I'm including one called The Burning Bridge by Paul Anderson, which again, fucking amazing. It it's a retelling of Exodus, but it's not cheesy. I mean, there's only one other time that somebody retold the story of Exodus in a sci-fi setting where it was really good, and that was the last Metro game, Metro Exodus. But The Burning Bridge fits in a dystopian story because it's people fleeing a dystopian Earth to start again, and it's the story of Exodus on a colony ship. One called The Dictator by Milton Lesner or Lesser. Um, I'm not going to get into that one other than it's about an overly bureaucratic dystopia, but again, how throwing one wrench in the works can bring it all down. I'm including the Marching Morons. Now, I typically wouldn't include that. It's a famous one, but I have a lot to say about this one. I mean, I have a lot to say about the Marching Morons. One, because I used to think it's funny, and two, after I found out that C.M. Kornbluth was a member of the Futurians and a communist, and what the goal of the Futurians was, it was a real window into what those people up in Manhattan thought of the rest of America and what they thought the solution was, which was genocide. Um, Victory is another one where you've got an overly bureaucratic society, and throwing a wrench in the works is all it takes to bring it down. And then the last one is X Marks the Pedwalk by Fritz Leiber. And okay, this one actually doesn't have an uplifting ending. It's just batshit. It's just a batshit story. It's satire to the 11th degree. And again, it was written in 63, but it reads like something that could have been written in the 80s because it's about a society divided into two groups of people, which are pedestrians and people who are car cyborgs, and they're in open warfare with each other over who to get over the roads. And it's insane. It's hilarious. It's one of those things that you could do. You could do like a really, really good satirical movie out of. Um, Strangely enough, and I did not expect this one. Um, I'll buy that for $1. Yep. Um, is I found the necessity to include. We're now compiling a folder full of stories that I think we're going to entitle "Strange Love." Now, they're not romance stories. They're not romance. I need to make that very clear. They are about finding love. And what I'm finding in all these pulp stories, and it's really strange, is just how many stories of in the old pulp days was about the guy meeting his perfect woman or getting the girl or, finding love in the weirdest place. And I didn't expect to find that. I didn't even know that sort of thing existed. Um, one is called George Love's Gisela, which is a really, really insightful take on, I think, the civil rights movement and interracial dating, because you've basically got a rich Earth kid marry dating a Russian girl who's weird, she's purple, and uh, does, they're not very attractive to humans, and his family is basically very racist towards the Venusians. But as the story goes on, you find out this rich kid's only doing it to piss off dad. He doesn't really love the woman. He's just a spoiled brat. And all of his liberal, oh, I believe in equality, and oh, I don't see color. It's all there just to piss off daddy. He was all lies. All his liberal claptrap were lies. He was just mad at dad. There's one by Lester Del Rey called Helen Alloy, in which a man finds love with a robot. Um, the Tin You Love to Touch, which is the same premise but hysterically funny, and some of the most hilarious innuendos I've ever read. The Goddess of World 21, which, again, I did not expect. That one really blew me away because the story starts with a guy who writes kind of a gossip column for essentially it's supposed to be the New York Times, and he's an asshole. He's an asshole gossip columnist who does either scandals or weird oddities going on in the galaxy. And there's these rumors of planet Gulliver where giants live, and he goes to the planet. He finds it. He gets stranded there. And he finds out there's only one person there, this woman. And yeah, it's got a little bit of strange gigantism fetish in it, but none of it's gross or disgusting. But I think the guy was a little bit into gigantism. Um, by spending a few months with this one woman who's a giant who's stranded on this world due to a scientific experiment gone amok, this shithead asshole of a journalist kind of becomes a decent guy and realizes he can't really go back to his old life because he realizes his entire life was basically digging up dirt and spewing it out onto the newspapers for a living, and that here he was living the high life, rich, and this poor girl, for no fault of her own, is stranded on this planet trying to survive. And I won't tell you where it goes, but for a story that should have been awful, it was really, really good. And then, of course, I'm going to include once again Ring Around the Redhead because it's about a guy finding his dream girl by accidentally building a portal to a parallel universe. Slowly gathering up stories for the Mad Scientist anthology. That one's coming along slowly, unfortunately. It's not that I can't find them, it's finding good ones. That's part of the point of these. I want them to be good stories. Um, got 4 stories for the post-apocalyptic anthology. Pale of Air by Fritz Lieber, which has a happy ending. Second Variety by Philip K. Dick, which is by my one of his best stories and one of my favorites by him. And if you haven't read it, you need to. Defenders by Philip K. Dick, which is okay. And The Moon by Fritz Lieber, which is really good. The Robot Anthology, I'm not going to list because Kat's doing that one. And so I'm waiting for her to get her list together. I've got 5, 6 stories for the rockets and ray guns. Um, although I'm not ready to announce which ones they are. Captive of the Centaurians by Will Anderson and Brigands of the Moon by Ray Cummings. And then I'm gonna do one on space Amazons, but I need to vet those stories, so I can't say yet. Slowly compiling stories for the Sword and Planet genre as well, but it's slow going. Um, Unfortunately, it's one of those things where it's hard to find the good ones. You have to read through a lot of bad ones before you find the good ones. So there we go. Wasn't Helen O'Loy a love triangle? Sort of. It sort of was. Can you fuck a robot asking for a friend? Um, well, I think you could fuck Helen O'Loy. The other story, The Tin You Love to Touch, I think is kind of interesting because it's written by Robert Bloch. It's a satire and it's very funny, but it's essentially about um, a low-T nerdy guy who can't get it, who's married to an overly masculine woman, falling for for a robot because the robot's more feminine. Draco Nightmare. Marriage was actually considered important back in the pulp days. Shared values, teamwork, something greater than yourself. Now it's just drama, feelings, and sex. Yeah, and love isn't real, and everyone has to be miserable for something. I DM'd your J.Ishiro account with a link to the Google Doc for my story Discord. On Discord, there's also a tiny bit of rambling because okay, sure, no problem. I'll take a look. I will give it a read as soon as I can. No, I would like to bring you and Ginger, Mad Ginger, on the air because you've both sent me stories that are worth giving feedback to, and I'd like to bring you on, do episodes of the writers' room where Kat and I just kind of walk you through it and give you a critique and see what we can do to help you out. Um, I'm going to try and wrap up Pissant Apocalypse this weekend. Posted 2 more pages on Discord. These have a big twist at the ending. Cool. Very cool. I am looking forward to that. And again, I repeat, when you need that laid out in an actual graphic novel, I can help you out with it. I'm kind of roboting. Oh, that's great. Hmm. Okay, well, if that's the case, guys, I'll call it a night. But before I go, as always, if you guys come across an old pulp story that you think might be public domain, that you think will fit, or if you have a story that you particularly like, let me know and I'll try and include it. You should have BGC come on sometime, dude. Dude is super well spoken and a good ass writer as well. Yeah, he is. Um, Honestly, I don't know if BGC is happy with me anymore. I don't know. Um, there was an evening in which BGC was really pushing hard to get in on Raltz's game, and I think Raltz said something very uncomplimentary about him in response, and I'm kind of wondering if that hurt his feelings or whatever. But yeah, I think he might not be thrilled with us right now for that. But yeah, I just remember that there was a game in which he was pushing hard to join in, and Raltz was not very nice about it. Get lost. All right. Well, I'm gonna take off. Are we doing a stream tonight? No, probably not because Janelle is on the road coming to Arizona right now. All right. Take care.